Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am Vander Gack, Northeast SARE's Communications Specialist. This is our second 2026 Partnership Grant question and answer session. Uh, and we are going to be quick overview here. We're going to be starting off with just like a presentation on the program itself from Candace Huber, the administrator. And then we're going to open it up into question and answers. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to hop over to projects.sare.org and make your account, which is where you're going to submit your proposal. You can also go to projects.sare.org/search projects to search the projects database, to look at other people's reports, use them for inspiration. And we've got, I want to make as much room for questions as possible. This will be recorded and made available on our website. And without further ado, Candace, take it away.
Thank you, Vander. I am trying to share my screen. Everything is moving really slowly. I don't know what's happening. Can you guys see my screen? The PowerPoint?
Not yet.
Not yet. It's just taking a long time to load. Come on, there we go. Is that it?
I can see it now, Candace.
There, you got it.
All right. Sorry about that, everyone. There's a delay. And so I hope you can hear me. I may end up turning my video off if things get complicated. So let me know. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. As Vander said, my name is Candace Huber. I manage the Partnership Grant Program for Northeast SARE. Today, I'm going to just have a brief presentation of some of the basics of the program, and then we'll open it up to questions. You can go ahead and put your questions in the chat. You can wait and raise your hand, or just if I'm not seeing you, jump right in and ask a question. You're welcome to talk about your specific project, but just know that there are a lot of people on this call. So if you have an idea that you want to keep confidential, you can feel free to contact me at any other time to talk about your particular project. So first, all right, let's see. So as you all know, we're currently accepting proposals for the Partnership Grant Program, and the call for proposals is available on our website, and applications are due April 14th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. At that time, the system will shut off, so it's important that you make that deadline. First, just a little bit about SARE. SARE stands for Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education, and it is a federally funded program through the USDA, National Institute of Food and Agriculture. And there are 4 regions in the country, United States, and we're the Northeast, serving these 12 states and the District of Columbia. The Partnership Grant Program is one of 7 competitive programs that we have. So the first criteria is that you need to be working in the Northeast region. Now, these are the basics of the Partnership Grant Program. We'll just go over these briefly. If you're someone who works with farmers and have a farmer you can partner with on the project, then you're eligible to apply. The projects should seek new knowledge that farmers can use and address questions that improve the sustainability of farms. The maximum amount of funds you can request is $30,000. You'll need to put together a detailed, realistic budget, and it's important to note that funds are paid on a reimbursement basis. So you or your farm need to be able to manage the expenses up front. Projects typically run from 1 to 2 years, but the absolute maximum is 3 years. Applicants may only submit 1 partnership proposal per year. You can apply to other programs, but for the Partnership Grant Program, you can only submit 1 proposal. So if you have a couple of ideas, choose just 1 to focus on and submit. Let's see. Again, all of the detailed instructions can be found on our website in our call for proposals. So the main goal of our program is to help farmers in the region. So for your proposal to be competitive, you want to demonstrate that your project will benefit sustainable agriculture. And you can use our outcome statement to guide that, and that is Northeast agricultural communities honor the holistic connection among land, water, air, and all living beings. Agriculture in the Northeast is sustainable so that all farmers and farm employees can steward resources to ensure sustainability, resilience, economic viability, and quality of life. Your project should also address our legislative priorities, which are soil health, conservation of natural resources, water quality, farmer health and safety and quality of life, livestock health, and farm labor. And now it's also critical for projects to have significant impact or impression on farmers and farming communities. Impact can be social, economic, and environmental. For example, how does the research support farming community livelihoods? How does the research build strong economies through local or regional trade? How does the research improve crop production? That's the kind of thing we're looking for impact. And with impact, replicability is important. So replicability is the ability of another farm or farming community to obtain similar results when applying the same methods. So in other words, another farmer can utilize the results of the research to benefit their farming practices or behavior. So we don't want projects to just benefit one farmer. We want the research to have a potential impact if it's successful. And another thing that projects should address is innovation. And innovation is defined as the development or adoption of new concepts or ideas. Innovation can also be the development and implementation of novel and effective solutions to meet social and environmental challenges. So within the scope of Northeast SARE, examples of innovation can include an introduction to a new behavior or practice. It could be one with which farmers are not yet familiar. It could be, may not be it could be a brand new practice, or maybe not a new practice, but new to a specific audience. So it just hasn't been applied in that way before, or to that area or for those people. So that's all innovative. The opening of a new market, maybe that's not been previously entered. It could be a new market to that locale, region, commodity, or maybe a new source of supply of materials or goods, or it could be improved organizational structure and capacity, so improved way to do business. The bottom line is that innovation doesn't mean something never ever tried before. It just has to be a solution addressing a specific challenge that farmers are facing. So your proposal should align with these three things: the legislative priorities, the innovation, and the impact, and then the outcome statement. But you also want to make sure that your responses address the criteria for each question. So in the call for proposals, you'll see an explanation about everything that you need to know. And there's also the proposal questions are laid out with exactly what we're looking for from each one. And the call for proposals comes in the appendix. You'll find the scoring rubric. And this is what reviewers are going to use to score the proposals. So this is just an example of what you'll see when you get to the section of plan of work. That's where you'll be talking about your objectives, activities, timeline. And so when reviewers read that, they are looking at the proposal as a whole when they're addressing these criteria, but specifically when for the plan of work, these are the kinds of things they're going to be looking for and how they will score them. So if the objectives are lacking or unclear, they might score it a 1, 2, or a 3, and then so on up until 10, which is like the most exceptional project or answers to these questions that you could find. So keep in mind that the rubric is there for you to use and to guide, to just give you a sense of what we're looking for in the responses for the proposal. Now, before I start taking questions, I do want to talk a little bit again about eligibility. We talked about it last week, but this is always something that where people really want to make sure they can at least be eligible. In order to be eligible, you need to be an agricultural service provider in the Northeast region, and your organization must have the capacity to manage the grant. As I said before, the funds are provided on a reimbursement basis, so the organization who we would contract with for the project, for the award, needs to be able to pay the expenses up front. It's usually when you submit an invoice to SARE, it can take up to 30 days to get payment. So there's the cash, the financial piece that needs to be managed. To be eligible, the entity, so your institution, farm, could be a college, could be any of these here, nonprofits, extension colleges, universities, any for-profit businesses, which could be like a consultant or a farm if you actually work with other farmers and you're based out of your farm. Could be a city program or a county program. Could be a federal program through the Department of Agriculture, or any other programs. Again, just one application per year. Now, organizations, so one application per person per year applies to the applicant, the person who is the project leader and the applicant. Now, if an organization has two different people who want to submit proposals, two different projects, you wouldn't want to double dip, do any overlap, but two different projects, that's perfectly allowable. So an organization can be listed on multiple proposals, but only one per person per year. Let's see. Oh yeah, and so you must have a farmer partner in order to apply for this grant. So what we're looking for is for you agricultural service providers to be working with a farmer from the beginning through to the end, so that you're really staying grounded in what the needs are of the farmers and how it is working for them. So we really we require that you have a farmer partner. You can have more than one, but you need to have at least one. And the farmer to qualify needs to be a commercial farmer with an established farm income of at least $1,000 per year. On our website, we have documents that explain this further. If you are an organization that has a farm, like maybe you're at a university that has a university research farm where you're going to do a lot of the research, that's great. You can still do research on that farm, but you have to have another farmer partner. Your farmer partner needs to be outside of your organization, and they'll be the ones who'll be considered your farmer partner. You can still do that research on the farm as long as you're doing it also on the other farmer partner's farm. But it's important that it's a separate from your organization, the farmer partner. They should be somebody who's experienced in the topic area, located in the Northeast, and actually experienced in the topic area, but also has interest in the project. And the farmer partner will need to write a letter of commitment for the project that needs to be submitted with the proposal, and it needs to include who they are, their qualifications, a little bit about their farm and their experience, and also what they perceive as their role in the project. Because reviewers will want to see that the farmers are on board and that the farmer and the agricultural service providers are all on the same page as far as who's going to be doing what. Oh. Let's see. Okay, and we also do fund a wide range of topics and scales of farms. You could be farming on a large or small scale with organic or conventional practices, urban or rural, full or part-time. Really, any project that any farm situation where there are where there's a potential to address a challenge in a sustainable way. And the topics themselves are wide-ranging. These are just some of the examples. We've got crop production projects, livestock projects, aquaculture, is really quite a big one these days. Education, it could be an education project. It doesn't have to be a straight research project. It can be education, um, figuring out a curriculum for a certain practice. Um, Nutrient management and soil health, that's all important. We see a lot of projects in those areas. Pest management, um, product or development, you can test a product or actually develop a product. You just have to keep in mind that if you're developing a project, designing a piece of equipment or something like that, the design plans will be in your final project. So if it's something you're looking to maintain proprietary rights over, you'll want to consider that. Bees, we get a lot of applications, a lot of projects that involve bee health, business management, any sort of business management, marketing, co-ops, farmers market plans, succession, all those kinds of things regarding the business, and natural resources too, like water quality, energy efficiency, identifying any of that stuff is, or addressing any of that stuff is all acceptable. You can go to our projects database at projects.sare.org, search projects, and you can put in a keyword if you want, or you can just look around and see what we have. But if you put in a keyword, and there's some other filter type things you can do, put in the Northeast if you want to look at a particular state, you can go there and see what kind of projects we've been funding. In the projects.sare.org database, this is listed as on-farm partnership projects, on-farm research. So just so you, if you're looking for the partnership ones in particular, they're very similar to farmer grants, partnership grants. They're just different in the way that they're set up, and they have the applicant needs to be the agricultural service provider working with a farm partner. So farmer grants also, if you're looking for particular research and particular topics, are another category of our grants that may be helpful to you if you're looking to see how projects are written, and what people are including in their proposals. Let's see. So at this point, I'm going to take some questions. I have a ton of stuff I could talk about, but I want to make sure to get to your questions. AI assistant. Will we receive this? Yep. The Vander addressed that. Vander will be adding the this presentation and question and answer session to our recordings on our website. They've put the website address in the chat. Is it possible, preferable for us to involve multiple farmers in our project? It really depends on, it's definitely possible. You can have just one farmer, you can have multiple farmers. It's always great to have multiple farmers because you will get you'll get different perspectives, and you'll be testing in different locations and different environments, and all the various factors. But it's not necessary if your project is something that would work better with just having one farmer. And so it really depends on the design of the project, whether how many farmers you'll want to use. And reviewers aren't looking for either way, for it to be either multiple farmers or individual farmer. So it's whatever would work best for your project. They may see a project that they might say it might be helpful to add another farm or farmer here, because you'd have a wider range of factors to test. But so it really depends on your experimental design. Oh yeah, and Vander mentioned that one of the farmers needs to be designated as your farm partner, and then the other ones can be listed as collaborators on your project. Let's see, farmer has a separate unrelated SARE Farmer project underway. Can they participate in the SARE Partnership Grant project? Yes, says Vander, and yes, you can. As long as you're up to date on all your reporting, you can submit an application for another project. And if you have any questions about that, then you can contact the grant coordinator for the project where you currently have a grant, just to make sure. But yeah, if you're up to date on all your reportings, you're definitely eligible to apply. Must farms be farming in soil or controlled environment vertical ag also qualify? Yes. Vertical ag qualifies. Yep, and you need to be just meet the definition of a farm with the $1,000 in agricultural products grown and sold in the previous year. There's a lot of we don't have any policy on soil or non-soil farming. So reviewers will look at it, won't look at one more favorably over the other. And it's definitely a growing industry. So it's definitely an appropriate topic. For multiple projects submitted by the same organization, does the project leader and team need to be different or just the applicant? For example, submitting the same proposal with multiple separate farmers from one organization. Submitting the same proposal with multiple farmers from one organization. All right. I'm a little confused about the second part of that question, but if an organization wants to has multiple employees that want to submit projects, that's fine. So the project leader needs to be different. There can be overlap in the team. So you can have a farmer partner can be a farmer partner on more than one project. Project leader can only be the project leader on one project. Now, the second part of this question, you wouldn't want to submit the same proposal. We wouldn't fund. I mean, technically you can, two different applicants can submit a proposal for the same project, whether it's the same work and the same expenses. I don't know. I mean, you can submit that technically, but we wouldn't fund duplicate projects. So you just want to make sure about that. We don't run into that very often. Yes. Okay. You can with your local extension or FSA office. Okay. Can you clarify the IRB requirements if project involves social research that might just be interviews with the farmer partner, farmer collaborators, but could also involve surveys with participants, say people who come to an educational farm and observe a demonstration project or who participate in a dialogue group about the project. Based on that, do you think an IRB approval would be required? So IRB is the internal review board, and for projects that work with human subjects, you are required to get IRB approval, which means they will look at the project to make sure that it complies with human subject welfare. They want to make sure no vulnerable populations are being their sensitive information is being compromised. And so if you have surveys and interviews and you're getting actual feedback from human beings, human people, you should say yes to human subject research. And there is some information in the call for proposals where you can go to the federal website and see if your project would really require IRB review or not. And if it's just surveys and interviews with a non-sensitive population, so no youth, just no sensitive populations, then typically it would be exempt. And you can figure that all out on the website. If you have questions about it, you can call me. But if it's just people who are coming to a farm to observe a demonstration project, like they're just there for a workshop or like a twilight meeting, then that wouldn't be a human subject. But if you are actually connecting with these people and getting information from them, then they are considered a human subject. Tatiana, does that, I don't know if that gives you, if that is clear.
Yeah, clear as mud, as they say.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm not entirely sure, but I'll check the federal website and try to get clarification on that. But
Yeah, you can call me if or email me if you have further questions and we can look at it together.
okay, thanks.
Just want to clarify, cut flower production focused proposals are eligible. Yes, we consider cut flower production farming because you're growing the flowers and you're selling them as long as you meet the definition of a farm with that $1,000 limit or minimal. Should applicant pay rental fee for land used for demonstration on farm partner's land? Well, that's something that you can talk to your farmer partner about, but SARE, certainly that would be an allowable expense for us to cover. We do definitely recommend that you pay farmer partners for their time on the project. And if the land is that that you're using for the demonstration is otherwise not being used for their production for that year. So if it's taking this land out of production for the year, then certainly I would recommend putting in your budget a rental fee for that land to cover what the farmer is losing in production. If the farmer is not losing anything in production and it is just a demonstration where the project is taking place and they're benefiting from the project, I would recommend maybe not paying rental fee, but definitely paying the farmer for their time I mean, you could pay a rental fee. I just want to see the farmer get compensated for all that they're putting into you being able to do that demonstration. How can we find farmers who would want to partner? Typically, if you are an agricultural service provider, by definition, you are working with farmers. So as Vander said, we don't have an official pathway for that, but if you want to look and see the farmers that have had projects before, you could go to our database, our projects database, and look up there, like maybe in your state, you could look to see if there are any farmers that have that interest. But I would think that you may have an idea of who you could be working with if you are already an agricultural service provider, certainly somebody who has expressed interest in what you're doing, or you've already been talking about this new whatever it is with them. Going the wrong way. With extension and FSA also works. Yes, you can check with your local extension office. Those are ag service providers. They'll definitely might be able to connect you with somebody who's got interest in what you're thinking about as well. Any farmer organizations, NOFA, FSA, even your local farmers market network, or it really depends on what area you're looking to focus on topic wise. The application process actually has a partnership list website. USDA also has a farm finder search engine. Sunburst Farm, I'm not sure about that, what you're referring to with the partnership list website. So if you want to provide more information on that, we could share that. Do you need to own the area you farm on to receive a grant? No, you do not. A lot of people lease their land. You just need to, reviewers will just want to have confidence that this land is going to be, if you need the land to do your research, that the land will be there throughout the duration of the project so that the project can be successful. So if you rent the land, you could present that in your proposal, and just identify the agreement that you have, and that so that reviewers know that it will be there for the duration. Yes, and thank you, Vander, for clarifying that. It's not a requirement to be a farmer, but working with a farmer partner. So your farmer partner does not have to own the land that they're working on. They have to be in charge of it, of their what they're doing. They have to be in charge of their farming operation. I'm planning to have the grant fund a partnering grower to build and test an experimental piece of equipment on his farm. Would the farm be able to own the equipment at the end of the trial? It's not clear if the equipment will have any real value to the farmer after the experiments, depending on whether it works or not. Correct. Yes. So yes, the farmer would own the equipment at the end of the trial, or the agricultural service provider would. It's up to the agricultural service provider what happens with that equipment. If they want to leave it on the farm, that's fine. If they want to take it to wherever they're going, they can do that too. They can we love to see equipment being used for educational and research purposes beyond the scope, beyond the length of the grant, but it's really once the equipment is purchased, we don't have any further involvement in it. Does winning a partnership grant affect our novel approaches application and eligibility? The two proposals could be for unrelated or related projects. Yeah, so novel approaches, I do not believe will be awarded before this deadline. If you are, as long as you're not asking for the same monies, you can, let's see, does winning a part, okay. And I was looking actually the other way around. So winning a partnership grant, if you are awarded a partnership grant, it does not affect your novel approaches application eligibility. You're absolutely eligible to apply. If it's a related project, you'll want to make sure that it's clear how it's different from the partnership grant project, how it would be building on the partnership grant project, and that you're not asking for funding the same expenses. Do all the farms participating have to meet that? No, only the farm partner needs to meet that that criteria on the definition of a farm. So you can have other farms participating that do not meet that $1,000 minimum, but the one that you're listing as a farmer partner has to be a commercial farmer meeting that criteria. Is it possible to say that the reimbursement would come from another grant being applied for? Especially if some but not all the costs could be paid upfront at the time. So if reviewers want to feel confident that you're going to be able to complete the project. If you are counting on another grant that you haven't even been awarded yet to pay for expenses that go beyond what you need, what you can get from the SARE grant, but you still need those expenses, reviewers will not feel confident because it's up in the air. Like if you don't get that grant, would you be able to do any of the project or not? So reviewers want to know that you're able to do the project. If you have other sources of funding for your project, you can list them in there. Like if you already have the grant that's going to pick up the expenses that you're not asking for with your SARE grant, then make sure to explain that in the proposal. What credentials are required of the researcher if the researcher is also the farm owner? Okay, so again, we require that the farm partner be outside of your organization. So if you're a researcher and a farm owner, you can do work on your farm, but you have to have a farm partner and be doing work with them outside of your farm. And the researcher, I'm assuming you're like another term for that in our scope would be the project leader. And the project leader just needs to be an agricultural service provider. So somebody who works with farmers in the Northeast. and that, sorry, the project leader or that does not actually need to be in the Northeast. You just need to be working with farms in the Northeast, and you need to be working on a project that will benefit, that has potential to impact the Northeast. Can a project be tailored to youth or young farmers in education? It can be. Our target audience is farmers. There can be a youth component, but it needs to be in service of impacting farmers and farming in the Northeast. Exactly. So you'll really want to make the case of how working with these youth is going to help farmers in the Northeast. And you'll be working with a partner farmer. So that will be an opportunity to make that connection if you're doing some sort of training or educational work with the youth. We wouldn't fund that straight out, but if there's a connection on how that can benefit commercial farmers, like for instance, maybe these youth can it's a hard one because youth is definitely a sensitive population, so you will need to get IRB approval if you do something like that. And you definitely need to make that connection of how working with the youth will help the commercial farmers. Would timber removal for mushroom growing work within the scope of this grant if it's doubling as timber stand improvement? Timber removal. Yes. It definitely I don't know if it would be if you're looking to make it the topic of what your project is or just part of your project, that in order to be able to grow the mushrooms, you need, the project is about growing the mushrooms, but you need to do the timber removal in order to do that. You'll just want to make, if you are, well, I'm not really sure. If you're looking for funds to cover that timber removal, you'll just need to explain why it needs to be removed in order to be able to do your project. If your project is about timber removal and its effect on mushroom growing, then absolutely it can be the major part of your project. How can we find farmers who want to partner? We've talked about that. USDA also has a farm finder search engine. Yep. When I looked at the SARE site, I saw the partnership list, and working with USDA have learned about the farmers search engine. Just offering information. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure what you're referring to as the partnership list, but maybe you're talking about the database at projects.sare.org, where you can plug in on farm research the partnership grants and see the farmers that have been awarded grants in the past. Would herbal products made from plants farmed wild stewarded plant populations on the farmer partner property be eligible? It's farmed, wild stewarded. Yes, they would be eligible. That could be like a marketing thing, a diversification opportunity, value added products type of thing. But yes, definitely herbal products are from, agricultural products are definitely eligible. I am currently building and developing my farm, ABM Farms. I have pigs and goats, building a poultry house. Yeah, I bought the farmland in Cameroon, Africa because of low cost. I am seeking a grant to complete the development of the farm. Our funds do not cover capital expenses, farm enterprise expansion for farms, and certainly not farms outside of the Northeast region. So we would not award, it would not be eligible to be reviewed if the project is to just complete the development of a farm in Africa. Do we need IRB approval for the grant submission or are funded before we start? So you'll need the IRB approval before you can begin your research activities and before you can get any reimbursement for research activities. And you would be required to complete a form that says that you understand that. IRB approval can take a while. So if it's something that you need and you're going to want to start it right away in September, I would suggest getting it ahead of time. But if you want to wait until whether that you see if the grant is awarded or not, that is fine. Just know that you won't be able to start the research portion of your project until you do get that. And when you get the IRB approval, you just need to forward us a copy of the determination for us to keep on file. If I'm developing a project that meets most of SARE objectives intended to benefit farmers, but my project is based on practices I'm currently implementing on my farm, do I still need to have a third-party farm involved? So you're saying I believe you're saying you're an agricultural service provider who has a farm and you want to do the work on your farm. Again, you do need a farmer partner that is outside of your organization. Oh, I think that's it. I think I got caught up. See where we're at time-wise. Does anybody have any further questions? Otherwise, I could talk a little bit more about the process. All right, I am going to just pull up some other notes. I'm going to stop my screen share for the moment. Oh, it looks like there was might be another.
If the project takes place on the project leader's land, is that eligible? Is the next question.
Oh, yes. Oh, thank you. The farmer partners go to the project leader's research site. That is fine. Yes. It does not have to take place on the farmer partner's land, but they need to be involved in the project. So it could be anywhere. Yeah. Let's see. All right. So we talked a little bit about product development versus product testing. Product development, just to clarify, is building a new tool and then testing it to see if it's effective and how to improve it. And in that case, prototype plans and the materials lists are part of the project outreach and reporting. So those will be made public. Now for product testing, you're taking a product that's already made and you're seeing if the treatment or the process or the product equipment works or can be applied in a new way. Then you do not need to share the product design. You just need to share your results of working with the product. Just want to make sure people understand that. And Vander, I'm looking at my other notes. So if you see some questions come in, just interrupt me, please. And I did want to talk a little bit about the budget, what SARE funds and what SARE doesn't fund, because that is often a big part of it. Let's see, I could share this screen quickly, share. All right, so let's see, hopefully that is coming through. Black, I see black. Oh, there we go, great. So again, I talked a little bit about the budget and that it's on a reimbursement basis. So you will need to, let's see, I have a little slide I can share with you about this. You will need to develop a realistic budget. And the reason why we put a lot of emphasis on this is because we don't want you to get in, we want you to be set up for success. We don't want you to get into the middle of the project and then feel like, oh, I didn't think about this, or I didn't really estimate that accurately. So we really want you to put some thought into it. So you'll determine what you will really need to do the work that you're proposing by developing a timeline for your plan of work that can help you understand. You can write, and it's going to take me 5 hours to do this. It's going to take my farmer partner 10 hours to do that. Then you can add things up, and you can really get a good idea of how much you want to include for labor and what kind of materials you're going to need, what you're going to need to be able to travel to maybe the sites, the research sites, or maybe travel to do outreach. Really just provide your best, try to get like real numbers, and just provide your best estimate for each expense. We have an Excel template that you're going to need to use, and you put in the quantity, the unit, like if it's hours or each or sets, whatever, and then the quantity and the price, and then the template calculates the amount for that. I would recommend going in and looking at the Excel template, getting a little bit familiar with that, and then proceeding with identifying your expenses. We cannot pay for anything that is expensed before the project start date or after the end date. And the cap is $30,000. This is an old template, so the new template looks slightly different, but basically you're going to need to put in the name of the item that you're requesting money for, why you need it. We need to see that justification. And then again, the unit, quantity, price, and it gives you then the amount for that. So what does SARE fund and what does it not fund? SARE does fund personnel. So personnel is you and your employees at your same organization. Personnel covers that. If you're hiring for the farmer partner or any other collaborators that are not part of the organization, they would be listed as consultants. Materials and supplies we cover. Travel, as I said, to maybe research sites or to conferences or meetings to do outreach. Printing and publications. And then we have there's other direct costs like equipment rental, testing fees, the consultants and what they need. All the expenses must be specific to the project. I'll get into what we don't pay for, but we also do provide indirect costs. So many organizations have a federally negotiated rate with that is the amount that they can charge. It's a percentage of the direct costs that they can charge to cover their facilities and administration overhead. Northeast SARE or SARE provides 10% as indirect costs. So you can request that. If you don't have a federally negotiated rate, you're not set up for that, you don't have to ask for the indirect rate. You can just use the full amount for your expenses. What we will not fund are permanent structures and major renovations. So that's like the expansion of your operation. Purchase of farm equipment that you would normally use. So we're not going to provide you with something that you use every day anyway. Motorized vehicles, cell phones, food. It has to be specifically, if you're having a meeting that you need to provide some food in order to maintain the continuity of the meeting, then we can pay for that. But otherwise, food is not allowed. Promotional giveaways, we don't allow for. Again, operating expenses that are normally present. So if you are going to be collecting data about eggs, and you collect the eggs, if you normally would collect those eggs to sell them anyway, we wouldn't pay you for that time. But if you're collecting eggs that normally you wouldn't be collecting, we would pay for the time. So operating expenses that are normal in your operation, we would not pay for. But if anything that the project is causing you to go above and beyond, we would pay for it. Yeah, so I think that's it in a nutshell about the budget stuff. I'm just trying to think what else could be really helpful. I'm going to stop sharing again. Are there any further questions? Where can I seek for a grant for a farm I'm currently developing? Oh, Barnabas, I would suggest for other grant opportunities, you could, so it's hard when you're going outside of the country. I don't know if there's any opportunities over in Africa that you could locate, but you could try checking with your extension office to see if they have any ideas for you. I'm sorry, that's the best I could offer. University of Maryland, College Park or Eastern Shore, they both have extensions, and they could maybe help you. There's also MARBIDCO is Vander, do you remember what it stands for? Maryland. Anyway, it's like a loan grant organization, MARBIDCO, and they might have some opportunities, or they may be able to point you in the right direction. Is a farm eligible without a farm service provider organization partner? No. You need to be an agricultural service provider, and then the partner needs to be a farmer. The applicant needs to be the agricultural service provider. The farmer is the partner. And if you are a farmer looking to do a project, you can apply for our farmer grants, which will be offered again in the fall. Oh, thanks, Vander. Put the link for MARBIDCO in the chat. Any other questions? Tips, how about some tips for submitting a strong proposal? Let me pull this up. Share again. So the first thing you want to do is just consider what your idea is. What's the problem that you're addressing, and what's the solution you're considering? And then how would you, and does that fit into our legislative priorities, our outcome statement, and impact on farmers? So that's considering the match between SARE and you. And if that looks good, then you want to read, the first thing I suggest is to read the call for proposals. All the information is in the call for proposals, and it's a lot. I'll tell you, it's a lot to go over. So I definitely recommend reading it all the way through, and then reading it again as you're doing the putting together your proposal, because there's a lot in there to consider as you're writing your proposal. Start early. Some people say up to 40 hours it takes them to put together a proposal. We also, some people may 10. So this was actually for farmer grants, this slide. So you wouldn't discuss it with a technical advisor, that's for farmer grants, but discuss it with your farmer partner, and to make sure that you're designing the project with their needs in mind. You can prepare your proposal offline. The Word version of the proposal is available, so you could go in there and write your the answers to the questions out. And there are word counts for each of the questions, so you can pay attention to that. You can use Word to be able to count your answer, count the words in your answer before putting them into the online system. After you've prepared it offline, you would copy and paste your answers into the system. And if you're over the word count, it'll just simply cut it off. So take a look, make sure your response still, even though if you're going to use the offline method, you're still responsible for what you're putting into your proposal online. So really double check and make sure your answers are complete, and that they're not getting cut off. Write with the reviewers in mind. So keep your writing clear and straightforward. Reviewers have general and broad agricultural knowledge, but they may not have specific expertise in your topic. So you need to be able to make the case in your proposal for your project, and try to steer away from acronyms and jargon that somebody who's not and in that field would know. So really I'm not saying dumb it down, but keep it clear and straightforward, and don't make any assumptions that reviewers know in depth about your topic. We talked about the budget. and that will be an attachment when you'll fill out that budget template, and that will be an attachment that you're going to need to provide in your proposal. You'll also need to attach the farmer partner letter of commitment and any other letters of commitment that from collaborators that you're working with. I'm not talking about people who are just going to maybe be attending some of your outreach events, but just people who are actually working on your project. If it's somebody who's within your organization that's working on the project, we don't need a commitment from them because that goes through the contracting organization. And then there's one other attachment. It's the grant commitment form that your grants office or the person who your authorized official will need to complete with you to be able to, just so that we know that the organization you're with is behind you on this and they're willing to they would actually be the one we would contract with. There's some lots of web resources on our website. I think I saw one more question. Any farm property making is considered a commercially, or are there other requirements? Nope, the $1,000 a year, and it's $1,000 of agricultural products produced on your farm. That's the $1,000, and you need to be in the Northeast region, and that I believe is it for the farm requirement. Okay, that's a note taker. Okay, so we don't need to go over the AI notes. So from here, if you have any questions, please contact me. We're going to have 2 more of these sessions before the deadline. So next Tuesday and then the Tuesday after that, that's the 21st. Again, the deadline is April 14th. Contact me anytime via email or phone, or and if you need to leave me a message, I'll get back to you very quickly. And because I know there's really not a lot of time until these are due. And so please feel free to contact me at any time with any questions, and we will work to resolve them. Anything before we say goodbye? Thank you. All right, well, thanks everybody for joining us, and good luck with your proposals.